This is NDTV. And you're watching NDTV Prime.
If I asked you to imagine two very different pictures, one that of a soldier posted in a remote area of the country on the country's border, and that of somebody like you and I, on our way to office and back, or perhaps during our free time, what is that one broadcast medium which has managed to forge a strong connection with both of us? Those of you who guessed radio got it just right. And that is what we are exploring on the show today, the world of radio and the kind of careers which exist at a radio station. My first guest is RJ Anirudh, the man who needs no introduction, and we are on our way to his studio.
मैं हूँ तुम्हारा सिर्फ तुम्हारा अनिरुद्ध अरबी 92.7 बिग एफएम गाने जो हिट रहेंगे
हेलो हाय मैं हूँ तुम्हारा सिर्फ तुम्हारा Abhishek Singh on 92.7 Big FM. Anirudh, how did I do?
6.5 out of 10.
6.5 out of 10? Let's hear it from you.
Hello, hi. मैं हूँ तुम्हारा सिर्फ तुम्हारा अनिरुद्ध अरबी 92.7 Big FM.
No wonder your show has been, all kinds of controversies, all kinds of scandals, all kinds of things have happened with viewers on the show.
Kissing, it's just love, virtual love.
Of course. I mean, and we're all in love.
And I'm not even really kissing. Imran Hashmi does it in real, in films. मैं तो सिर्फ radio पे कर रहा हूँ.
Oh no, you're doing it on the radio, nobody can see it. I mean, if I do it on TV, everyone can see it. Imran Hashmi does it on screen, everyone sees it. You do it here, who knows?
प्यार दे रहे हैं, प्यार लौटा रहे हैं.
Right. So this is, I mean, you are a multifaceted, personality. You are a writer, director, you've been a TV anchor, and of course, but one thing which you're really known for is being an RJ.
Yeah.
That's what you really are. And is that the chair that you always want to sit in? I mean, all the things that you've done, this is really what you wanted to do?
Of course, filmmaking is definitely a passion. I directed my first film last year, Sabki Bajegi Band.
Yeah.
And I obviously want to continue making films. But very many years back, my father told me that, whatever you do in life, you must succeed in 1,000 other professions. Do not lose radio because you have a personal connect with your fans and listeners, which is very, very unique.
Right.
And I realized that radio has something which is very, very unique, which nobody else offers. Neither television, with all due respect, not even film. I mean, I've directed a film.
Because from a soldier sitting on the border, I mean, although those days perhaps are over, when when in movies you had this video, this picture of a soldier with a radio on the border, listening
Trust
to
me, it's still there. Radio can never go. Where nothing else reaches, radio reaches. Let me tell you a very funny anecdote, like you were talking about mystery.
Yes.
Getting into radio, even now, people don't know. They ask me, like, how do I get into radio? What kind of qualifications?
How did you?
Now, this is really hilarious. I mean, I was like 17. I was in Canada, in Vancouver,
right,
where I grew up. And there was this Indian radio station called Rim Jim Radio. Exactly. Yes. And my mother said, okay, just go there. You have a good, Hindi diction. And you love songs. So the lady who owned the radio station, she said, oh, so you want to do radio? I said, yes. She said, okay, why don't I interview on radio? So I'll do your audition live on radio. So she was the owner of the station and she used to host half the shows there.
Right.
So she just got me on radio and said, okay, if you were to do a show from tomorrow, what songs would you play?
Sort of an interview and also a crash course at the same time.
At the same time, and the next day I was doing a show.
Wonderful. Audience might be feeling, what might be going through, to have a knack for that is one big thing you would say in that case that an RJ must have.
The first thing I would say is be yourself. Do not pretend.
Have
because
a
in radio, much even before that.
Right.
Very often we tend to have this false attitude, like style, style maro types.
Yeah.
Radio doesn't work.
Right.
Just be yourself.
Right.
So the identity should come from who you are as a person.
Right.
Do not try to imitate somebody else.
So don't. Yeah, like you said.
Don't be fake. Don't
fake.
have a fake attitude.
Yeah.
Don't have a fake accent,
Yeah.
which a lot of actors have in films. In films they get away with.
Right.
In radio you'll be laughed. You'll be thrown out.
laughed
Yeah. have a personality, a
Right.
distinct personality, and a slightly larger than life personality.
This is how you are? That
Yeah.
in
I
that
mean,
way, I
like-
can safely assume that this is how scandalous, controversial you are in your real life as
No,
well?
you have to up the
ante
volume. Yeah, the volume for like for example,
Yeah.
like my whole thing. That it happened by default. I wanted to create a romantic persona
Right.
because I realized that everybody on radio was just having these jokes and humor and all that. There wasn't anybody in the whole romantic space.
I'm taking you a little away from what we've been discussing, but to list it out, what would you say? A few do's and don'ts, or the kind of skill sets or qualification which is required for somebody to be an RJ.
Well, if you're looking at educational qualifications, you don't need anything specifically.
Right.
Generally, of course, most radio stations definitely do encourage somebody who has a bachelor's degree.
Right.
Besides that, I think it all depends on how you can express yourself. I know people who just go and do a workshop and they're cool with that, or sometimes you need to do an entire course to do it. Technically, you don't need to be terribly proficient, because radio stations do also train you a little bit.
Right.
So that's okay. More than anything
A lot
else,
of on-the-job training also happens.
yeah, what I would suggest to most of my fans who want to get into radio is firstly know your own talent. Okay, like
Right.
for example, do you want to make people laugh? Okay, so are you a good comic? Do you have a good sense of humor?
Right.
Are you a sports fan? Are you a retro film buff? For example, our radio station is a 24 hours radio station,
So
which is
pick up the
completely
kind of
retro.
shows or which are closer to your personality.
Yeah.
Right.
Are you a person who wants to make people laugh? Are you a person who's, for example, a great talker?
Few last words to the audience, people who want to become RJs, want to join the industry. Few tips, few do's and don'ts, which you would want to sort of tell them.
As I said, be yourself. Don't fake it. Yes, one very important thing which I left out is your knowledge has to be awesome. Your style might be super, whatever, but you can't be an empty vessel. Sense of humor is very important,
Right.
because people love a person with sense of humor.
So a lot of questions have come in, and a lot of them have already asked you about qualifications, skill sets, etc. But a few questions which are interesting, and hence I'm asking you those questions. So Hira Mehta asks if you have to be a certain age to become an RJ, and so does age matter?
You can be 20 or you can be 60. You just have to have something to express.
So Hira Mehta, the second part of her question is, what are the kind of opportunities perhaps because she's talking about the fact that there are X number of radio stations, the limited number of radio stations she's referring to, and a lot of RJs not retiring.
The thing about radio is there's a lot of people who don't have the patience,
Right.
so they eventually leave. So you do get an opportunity, achanak ho jata hai.
Right.
Because what happens is, one thing I would like to tell people is that you have to have the patience. Unlike television or films, you don't get instant stardom. So you have to wait for a period of at least 2 to 3 years in the radio industry. So a lot of people, because they keep coming and going, so a lot of other RJs or potential RJs
You
get
do
that
get your
opportunity.
chance,
Absolutely.
given that. Because a lot of questions have come in about compensation,
Right.
salary, so what about that?
Radio, just like other creative fields, is, I would say, sky's the limit. You
Right.
could be, a basic salary is also pretty decent.
Yeah.
And if you become a celebrity RJ, like if you have a seniority on your side and you become famous, again, I mean,
You're choosing to be humble right now? You don't want to say somebody like me?
but you could earn a good deal of money.
Now that we have demystified the role of an RJ and also how you can become one, let's talk to programming head Nandita Chibur of 92.7 Big FM about the other job roles, the work that happens in the background. Nandita, as it happens also in case of TV, people usually see the face on the camera and think, that's all that there is. But there is, of course, a lot which is happening in the background. Similarly for radio, it's the voice which is recognized. I mean, people, while do know who RJ Anirudh is, RJ Khanak is, I mean, she's sitting right in the background. So people have heard their voices but don't know the faces. Similarly, they assume that, they don't know perhaps so much about the other jobs which exist. So what kind of job roles are we talking about which make a show on radio possible?
Correct. most of the time, in fact, most people think that the RJ, as the voice of the station, is handling everything. But there's a whole team behind the RJ, and at the radio station, working round the clock to make the station sound good, And some of the key roles are producers, which are working alongside the RJs, music manager, and that's also round the clock. Right. There are sound designers, promo producers, who are working on thematics, station IDs, promos for the station, promos for the shows. Right. There is a copywriter or a script writer working on scripts. So there's a whole team working, at the radio station. Day in and day out.
I believe we have all of them sitting in this
they're all
bay
there.
area here.
Yeah, they're all there.
Perhaps we should, walk up to. I mean, the key roles that you mentioned here include the role of a producer, music manager, script writer.
Right.
So who do we have here? She is
There's
the
Namita.
producer. So will you take us through the kind of things which you do? While working, with the RJ, when you're planning a show, define, your job, break it down for us.
Okay, so for preparing for this show, so we go through all the websites, all the newspapers. So it just took us 4 to 5 hours to dig out all the news from the newspapers, because it's a drive time show.
Right.
People are coming back from the office, so we want to make them feel lighter, a little dose of fun, entertainment, Bollywood gossips. So all that makes a good show on air.
So your job actually starts a lot before, an RJ perhaps even comes in the picture.
Yes.
Right?
So my day starts at 9 in the morning and ends at, I guess, 8 in the evening because the evening show is from 5 to 8 on Big FM. So I started working at 9 and my RJ comes at 1.
She is in charge of the evening show. Let's not disturb her more. Thanks for talking to us, Namita. Thank you. Okay, so the next, perhaps, the role which you would say is very crucial in terms of, as far as the whole show is concerned, the structure of the show is concerned, is perhaps, when it comes to script. What the artist is going to say, what kind of words he's going to express himself in, and that's perhaps where a scriptwriter comes in.
Correct.
And Haider, of course, we have Haider with us here. क्या आप कहेंगे आपके हिसाब से कौन सी चीज़ ऐसी है जिससे आप थोड़ा सा मुश्किल पाते हैं इस नौकरी के बारे में? I'm sure बहुत अच्छी है जो आपकी पिछली नौकरी थी जिसे आपने छोड़ दिया.
मुश्किल क्वेश्चन है कि इसमें मुश्किल क्या है इस जॉब में मुश्किल कुछ भी नहीं है. बॉसेस अच्छे हों तो नहीं मुश्किल है, बॉसेस बुरे हों तो फिर मुश्किल हो सकता है, तो अभी देखूंगा.
राइटर की तरह धीरे से एक अच्छी सी लाइन टाइमिंग के साथ.
But what he's not told you is that the deadlines for scripts sometimes are like really tight.
Of course.
Really tight at times. Sometimes he has to script episodes in like, the show has to go tomorrow or record it tomorrow, and he needs to maybe come up with 3 episodes of, for shows that are national shows, not just Delhi based.
Right.
So a lot of thematics for the station, what you hear on air, where the show is promoted, are scripted by the scriptwriter.
Right.
In fact, a scriptwriter at a radio station also scripts a lot of advertisements.
Right.
And we have to sum it up obviously in 20 seconds, 30 seconds. That's the time you have. So it's a challenging job also.
एक चीज़ कभी कभी मुश्किल हो जाती है, जैसे आपको रात में एकदम से न्यूज़ आती है, कुछ खुदा न खास्ता कोई बहुत बड़ा रेप हो गया.
एकदम एक लेखक की तरह आपने 30 सेकंड लिए, सोचा कि क्योंकि सवाल तो मैंने पूछ दिया कि मुश्किल क्या होती है, कोई मुश्किल नहीं होती, सब ठीक है, बॉसेस अच्छे होने चाहिए. उसके बाद 30 सेकंड सोचा, 30 सेकंड लगाया और उसके बाद
सर एक होस्ट, एक आरजे और एक राइटर में यही फर्क है.
जी.
मेरे पास टाइम है सोचने का, आरजे के पास नहीं है. उसकी जॉब डिफिकल्ट हो सकती है, मेरे पास वक्त होता है. हाँ, वही मैंने कहा, जैसे कुछ इमरजेंसी आ गई, दिल्ली में कोई बहुत बड़ा ऐसा कांड हो गया जो हमें कवर करना है. सुबह कलाम साहब की मौत जब हुई थी तो ऐसा हुआ था अचानक, अकेला था स्टेशन में, जल्दी जल्दी करना, सारी चीज़ें करना. तो कई बार वो डेडलाइन ऐसी होती हैं जिसको हम आप नहीं बदल सकते. जनरली तो इतना वक्त होता है राइटर के पास.
And now, last but not the least, the 3 key roles that you were talking about when it comes to putting a show together.
And not just a show.
Yeah.
The whole station.
The whole station,
it's
in fact.
It's a music station.
Right. It's a music station after all.
Yeah.
So is that of a music manager.
Correct.
And we have the music
Aditi.
manager right here with us.
Hi.
Please. Aditi. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. So, you're the one who sort of decides what people will hum for the rest of the day?
Yeah, sort of, yes.
Sort of. For the rest of the day, the song that people are going to sing, you're the one who decides that.
Yes.
Does it feel like, what perhaps a superhero will feel like, Superman can fly, other superheroes can do other things. This superwoman decides, what rest of the city will sing for the rest of the day.
Like Spider-Man's uncle says, with great power you get great responsibility.
Huge responsibility.
So there's a lot of responsibility, like playing songs, and it's very Yeah, it's a very responsible job. You cannot. I don't have a single term to just amalgamate everything, but it's very tough.
I agree. You have a great responsibility on your shoulders. Are there any deciding factors that these are the kind of songs which we'll play, let's say, during these few hours, then in the afternoon we'll play those kind of songs, then a different kind of song in the evening? Based on what do you decide that?
Well, on a very primary level, every station has a music policy as to what music positioning they want to have. Whether they want to be all dhinchak, or whether they want to be the soothing ones, or whether they want to just play around and in the middle. So, Big FM is obviously, we are a retro station and we celebrate retro. So all the music which is on the in the log, whatever goes on there is always happy. So that's my first thought always, that whatever song plays on the station should be happy and should have a very happy takeaway for the listeners. Otherwise, day part wise, it completely depends on my jock's persona also. Whoever is hosting the show, that person should be able to carry the songs off.
I know you love your job. Anybody whose job is to decide, that's a superpower. I mean, like I said in the very beginning. So what do you love about your job apart from that, and what do you find, what is that one thing which you find a bit challenging?
The part I love is that I'm always surrounded with music. Personally, my playlist will not be what I might just put on air. So that's a very challenging part, as to there is never a definite answer to what a listener wants to hear.
You've heard from not just a programming head, but also from people who perform the key roles that we in the beginning established that do exist in a radio station. It's time for us to slip into a quick break, but you don't go anywhere, as there's a lot more coming up on the other side.